Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So this is a kind of a funny video really, because this is actually based off a dream I had this past week. I know it's so strange that when you Warhammer so much you start dreaming about Warhammer. Literally like nearly every night now I just dream about Warhammer and Space Marines and stuff. Maybe I'm too far down the rabbit hole. Anyway, the dream I actually had past couple of nights ago was the Emperor returning to the current situation that we have going now. And I woke up and I thought to myself, do you know what? I may make a video about this because I'm wondering what would actually happen if the Emperor returned as the Emperor as we used to know him during the horror series right now, during the situation, what is going on with, like, I don't know, the Psychic Awakening, the Plague Wars, everything that's currently going down the law. What would the Emperor's take on it be? Now, I'm not saying that the Emperor should come back in any type of way. I think he should be on the Golden Throne. There's reasons why he's on the Golden Throne, you know, the law reasons. If he gets off it, I'm sure, like, the Imperium is about to be eaten by chaos and everything that could come possibly through the webway. But I'm thinking maybe if he did, like, jump off it and he was able to control the shenanigans, maybe they fixed the Golden Throne and he went back out into the Imperium and he saw the Imperium as it is in its current state. Well, first things first, I think he would take a very, very downside to the way that he is praised as a god. I think you'd actually see some big reforms happening. And when I mean reforms, I mean mass killings. I mean, literally, the church would be wiped out. The Inquisition, I personally think, wouldn't have a leg to stand on. I think they would actually be one of the first to go, even before the church. Because the way the Inquisition goes around, you know, the holy emperor of mankind, we are basically following the emperor's orders. The emperor, like, yo, whoa, hang on there, chaperonios. You are not following any of my orders. You're basically going out and you're doing this stuff off your own back using my name. So I think he'd definitely turn towards them and give them the chop. Maybe replace them with something else, or, you know, maybe keep not the so how do I say this? Not the so-called Puritans around where, you know, everything is the God Emperor of mankind. But the thing is, the society that we live in now, well, we don't live in it, but the society that is happening now in 40k is so intertwined with the faith of the Emperor. Ripping that apart, I think, would cause a massive friction with all the Imperial citizens. If someone sees you as a god and you perform godly actions, because at the end of the day, the Emperor does perform godly actions. This is why Lorgar was so convinced of the Emperor's divinity, because of some of the stuff he could do. And then you turn to these said people and say, I am not a god, while performing godly actions. They're going to be like, but look what you're doing. Look what you're doing. Are you sure you're not a god? So I think it'd be really, really hard for him to separate that kind of mindset from the general population. And just on this subject, I always find it incredibly or laughably ironic, let's say, is that the whole Imperium is basically founded on the words of Lorgar before Lorgar's fall to chaos, because he was the first one to see the Emperor as a god, and he written all these texts and stuff. You know, he basically put the planet towards the Emperor and to his divinity, and the Emperor turned up with the Ultramarines and they smashed it all down, and, you know, he got a good spanking off the Emperor for doing all that kind of stuff. But that is really where it all started, and from there, that is where the Imperial religion grew, and it just took off from there. Even like during the Horus Heresy now, and definitely the Siege of Terror, we are seeing the first plants of it starting to blossom now, and it, you know, it is soon, of course, after the Emperor's entombed on the Golden Throne, to be in full effect. Now, let's just say, okay, the Inquisition has its head chopped off, or, you know, he puts another type of service in there, because, as I stated, the Inquisition does go deep down in its roots. The Imperial Church would just be obliterated. Again, we will have that. You can have that whole argument. That's probably a separate video. How would you separate the Church from the Imperium itself? That is just a massive rabbit hole to go down. So let's just say, for example, he manages to do it somehow. Okay, you know, there's no more church. It's basically the Imperial truth is back. Now, one of the other big subjects to touch on is the whole new Primaris project. How would the Emperor react to the Primaris Marines? You know, this is Belisarius Cawl working on the Emperor's, basically, genetic masterpiece, let's say. How would he look towards that? How would he look towards Guilliman commissioning this, let's say, would he think it's good for the Imperium? Would he think it's blasphemy? I don't really want to use blasphemy since that is kind of a religious type of term with the Emperor, but would he basically frown down upon it? I think, from my standpoint, I don't think he would right at the start. You see, I always think the Emperor never intended for the Space Marines to be around. This is why the Legio Custodes are basically his boys. They were basically designed, well, I would say they weren't designed because they came before the Space Marines, but initially they are basically designed for like the fallback plan, to kill anything that the Emperor doesn't want anymore. We've seen it with the Thunder Warriors. I definitely think it was leading there once the Astartes had served their purpose. I do think that the Emperor would have just knocked them off just like he did with the Thunder Warriors. Again, that is up for debate, but that's the way I see it. So I do view him, I do view like the Emperor would initially embrace the Primaris Marine because of everything that is actually going on in the galaxy as a whole. You know, you've got the Great Rift that has opened, and we'll get to that in a second. You've got all these Xenos races that are going on. The Tyranids are one of the biggest threats, if not the biggest threat, I think, to our galaxy. I know we're all infighting with Chaos, Orcs, Eldar, and that kind of stuff, but you think that you've only really saw the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the Tyranids. So I think the Emperor would be like, okay, I need as many reinforcements, as many troops, as many Space Marines, as many devastating, as much firepower, production I can get to start combating this threat and, of course, all the other threats that are going on in the Empire at the moment. Because don't forget, during the Great Crusade, the Emperor targeted the Orcs for a certain reason. The Orc Empire, if left to grow, would be devastating. Now, that nearly come to fruition when we had the War of the Beast. It was only that we won through the skin of our teeth, really. And, of course, the glorious Sons of Dawn activate the Last War Protocol and save the day, let's say. But if it wasn't for those kind of actions, then the Imperium would have fell. So I definitely think that the Emperor would point his gaze towards those factions first, the Tyranids and the Orcs, because again, left to grow and left to muster, they will just become bigger and more devastating threat to the Imperium. Now, that's not to say that Chaos isn't a threat. Of course, Chaos is a massive threat, and of course, with the Great Rift that split the galaxy in twain, I'm sure the Emperor would have some edicts and some plans for that. The thing about the Emperor is that the Emperor is basically the anti-Chaos. Like, some of the scenes that we've seen with the Emperor in Amdemsky's book, I think it's actually called The Emperor of Mankind, if I'm not mistaken, when the Emperor takes to the field to battle Chaos. There's an awesome scene. Sorry if I'm going to spoil it and stuff. If you don't want to listen, just mute me for like 30 seconds. There's an awesome scene where the Emperor takes to the field, and like there's demons who just look upon him and explode. They literally just cannot exist in his presence. Those are like some of the lesser demons, and he just goes around and he kills them all. And his sword that he carries, which basically Gilliman has now, I'm sure he'll take that sword back, by the way, and Gilliman will have to do with something else. That is basically an anti-chaos weapon. Like, once you're killed by that sword, it's basically GG. There's no going back to the warp, there's no regeneration, there's no nothing like that. You are basically dead. So stuff like greater demons, demonic primarchs, let's say, and the Emperor would take massive, actually, do you know what? I don't think he would take that. It's a really, really hard one. Would he look on his sons and look at them like they've been tricked by Chaos? Would he just go there and execute them? Again, you can have this kind of debate on this. Would he try and use his so-called powers to turn them back to be loyalists again? Maybe explain the actions, what he did, and why he took them back in the day, which made them turn to Chaos? Or would they just be so lost to damnation that they don't really care now and they serve their Chaos gods? If that was the case, then I'm sure the Emperor would just jump on them and slice their heads off, and that's it. Once that sword's gone, there's no more demonic primarchs. And on the subject of primarchs, of course, loyalist primarchs. Now, I'm sure the Emperor would know if there's any loyalist primarchs that are still remaining. For example, let's say he would know the lion is in the rock. I'm sure he has like kind of primarch sonar connected to them psychically that we don't really see. So if he was to maybe pass the rock or go to the rock. I'm sure he'll say, hey, the lion's there, and maybe he'll have the powers to maybe awake the lion. Maybe, he'll do the whole Snow White thing and kiss him, and he comes back to life. I'm sure he'll know where the others are, like Korax. Well, we actually know where Korax is. He's in the warp doing his Batman shenanigans. Khan, apparently lost in the webway. I'm sure you'll probably know how to sonar find him in there. Vulcan to Perpetual, he can't die. And of course, Rogel Dawn, no body equals no death. That is like the first rule of cinema. So I'm sure he'll know where he is or like how to bring him back. But the thing is, with the Emperor coming back to life. Oh, sorry, I forgot Lehman Russ as well. Sorry, you wolf boy, stop howling at me in the comments. And of course, Lehman Russ. But if the Emperor was to come back, I think that would kind of be like a lighthouse. Maybe something not only in the Emperor would looking for them, but also the Primarchs themselves would like maybe, oh, something's happened. The Emperor is awake. Let's all go back and let's rally towards him and await our orders. That's what personally I would like to happen. Like if he did arisen, then something in the Primarchs would wake up inside, or mentally, or psychically, should I say, and they'd be driven back home to find the Emperor and obey his orders once more. Now, there's actually one threat out there which maybe could prove a challenge to the Emperor, and that is Abaddon. Now, I haven't really seen a lot from Abaddon in 40k when it comes to terms of his power. I know Aaron Dembski-Bowden is writing The Talent of Horus and, all that kind of stuff, and he's really added character towards Abaddon, his past couple of novels. But when it comes to the lore, like him and Calgar had like a little fight, and I think to myself, if he's only going toe-to-toe with people like Calgar, even Gilliman would be able to smack him around the head. So if the Emperor stepped up to him and had a fight with him, then he's just got to get basically backhanded and, just gone out of existence. Yes, he does have the big powerful sword and stuff, and you can say that may help him in some type of way. But really, this is the Emperor of mankind. Chaos had all the powers. Horus had all the powers of chaos. Yes, you could again argue that they betrayed him and took and left the power at the final battle, and Horus saw it and what he had become and stuff like that, and the Emperor like mind blasted him out of existence. But at the end of the day, he actually went toe to toe with a being that was imbued by all the powers of chaos, and he survived. And I personally think that Abaddon wouldn't even stand an absolute chance against him. I just think he'd be just ripped apart. I'm actually thinking now, is there actually anyone in the galaxy that can actually go against the Emperor of mankind? Maybe like the hive mind itself, but what is that? Is that like was one big bug at the center of it all? Is it like a queen, or is it just every Tyranid connected by that type of source? Again, that is another debate for another time. There's lots of debates for another time. This is like a million videos springing off from this video. When it comes to the orcs did kind of nearly kill the Emperor once, so if left to muster, maybe, they could be a threat. Of course, back in the Great Crusade, if you haven't read the Wolf of Ash and Fire, it was Horus that saved the Emperor. He was about to get choked out by a big war boss. So, it is shown that the Emperor is vulnerable. But again, did the Emperor plan that? To plan to see him to be choked out? So Horus thought, maybe the Emperor's not as divine as I thought, or as powerful as I thought, and that all really like set the foundations of the heresy. Again, it's oh my god, there's so many questions to go along with this. You could probably argue that some Necron being out there, Satans and stuff, may be able to battle the Eldar. The Emperor. On the terms of Eldar, I'm trying to think: is there anything with the Eldar that could go against the Emperor? I'm going to say no. Absolutely not at all. I'm sure someone will be raging in the comment section. How dare you? I'm sure there's this person. I just think the Emperor's just too godly and just too powerful to even comprehend really fighting against. He's just on a whole different level of madness and just carnage, really. All right, Chaperoonios, that's enough ranting for me. I don't want to be going on. There's so much to talk about. Of course, I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on this. If the Emperor did come back, what do you think he would do? How he would do it? Do you think he would like take to the Primaris, the Church, the Inquisition, the politics itself? Like the Imperium has become a cesspool. Now, Gilliman's doing his best to try and sort that out, but even for a Primarch, there's only so much you can do when, over the past 10,000 years, just the way it's changed, it's getting rid of that 10,000 years of just utter crap and trying to correct it, and people are so, stuck in their old ways, they don't want change. They're happy with the way it is, because that's as far as back as they can remember, that's how it's been and that's how it's worked for them, and to try and change that would be a big thing. But then again, the Emperor coming back, seeing the Emperor walk out, surely that would make people go, oh boy, all right, this is time for change. All right, thanks for coming again. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry I went on a little bit of a rant again right at the end. Of course, as I said, leave all your thoughts, feedback in the comment section, and we'll have a nice little chat about it down there. See you now. Have a great day, and bye-bye.